That morning, the city outside was a symphony of ambition, but inside the corner office, the only sound was the hum of impending doom. On the polished mahogany desk of CEO Arthur Vance lay a stack of papers, each one a death sentence for a career. The document was titled Project Phoenix, a cold, corporate name for what it truly was: the termination of 42% of his workforce. Hundreds of employees, hundreds of families about to be cast into uncertainty. Arthur had spent sleepless nights crafting this plan. The board demanded it. The market screamed for it. It was, he told himself, the coldest, most necessary business decision he had ever made. He had built this company from a garage startup into a global leader. He knew the cost of sentimentality. Now he reached for his expensive fountain pen, its gold nib gleaming under the recessed lighting. This was the final act. One signature, and it would all be set in motion. But as his fingers brushed against the pen, his gaze snagged on something else. A simple, plain white envelope, placed squarely in the center of his desk blotter. No return address, no company logo. Just his name, Mr. Vance, written in neat, unassuming cursive. His assistant, Margaret, was meticulously efficient. Nothing landed on his desk without being scheduled, scanned, and sorted. This was an anomaly. A disruption to the grim, orchestrated proceedings of the day. He sighed, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. A distraction. He almost brushed it aside, ready to get the awful task over with. But something held him back. A quiet whisper in the back of his mind, a strange, insistent curiosity. Read it first, it seemed to say. He hesitated, his hand hovering between the pen and the letter. The firings could wait 60 seconds. With a sense of reluctant duty, he picked up the envelope. It was surprisingly light. He slid his thumb under the flap and pulled out a single folded sheet of paper. He unfolded it. The handwriting was the same as on the envelope, tidy and clear. The first line jumped out at him, and it felt like a punch to the gut. "Sir, I know you don't remember me." Arthur blinked. He prided himself on knowing his senior staff, his top performers, but this opening, it spoke of anonymity, of the vast sea of faces he passed in the hallways every day. He read on, "My name is Samuel. I'm one of the nighttime janitors. People like me are easy to ignore. We're part of the building, like the lights or the air conditioning. We see everything, but we're rarely seen." His hand, which had been holding the pen just moments ago, froze. The weight of the firing orders on his desk suddenly felt heavier, more menacing. Samuel, the janitor. He tried to place the face, a vague image of an older man with kind eyes and a slight limp, but it was blurry, indistinct. Just as the letter said, easy to ignore. He continued reading, his focus shifting entirely from the corporate mandate to this unexpected message from the heart of his company. Samuel wasn't writing to complain. He wasn't asking for a raise. He was simply sharing what he saw. Line after line, Samuel painted a picture of the company Arthur had stopped seeing. He wrote about the young engineer in the R&D department, the one who worked so late that Samuel often had to remind him to go home to his new baby. He wrote about the marketing team, who celebrated a small win with a shared pizza last Tuesday, their laughter echoing in the empty halls long after everyone else had left. He described the quiet solidarity, the shared glances of exhaustion and determination. He wrote about seeing a manager from accounting discreetly leaving a box of groceries on the desk of a junior employee who was struggling financially. He wrote about the small acts of kindness, the whispered words of encouragement between cubicles, the sheer human effort that pulsed through the building every single day. These weren't numbers on a spreadsheet. They were stories. They were people. Samuel wrote about the pressure, the palpable anxiety that had been creeping through the corridors for weeks. He saw it in the tired faces, the hunched shoulders, the conversations that stopped abruptly when a senior manager walked by. He wrote, "I see the lights on in your office later than anyone else's, sir. I know the weight you carry. But sometimes from up so high, it must be hard to see the ground." By the time Arthur reached the fourth paragraph, he had unconsciously pushed the stack of firing orders to the far side of his desk. Samuel's letter wasn't an accusation. It was an observation. A gentle mirror held up to the humanity Arthur had sacrificed at the altar of efficiency. The CEO, the titan of industry, had become so focused on the structure of the building that he had forgotten about the people inside. The people who gave it life, who filled it with more than just labor, but with hope, fear, and dreams. The final paragraph was short. I don't know what you have planned, sir. But I see good people here. They believe in this company. They give it their all. I just hoped you'd see them too, not as costs on a balance sheet, but as the family they are. The family you built. By the last sentence, Arthur's vision blurred. A single tear traced a path down his cheek, a warm track on his cold, resolute face. He looked at the letter, this simple piece of paper from a man he barely noticed. It held more truth, more weight, than the mountain of market analysis and financial projections that had led him to this point. It wasn't a business document, it was a testament. One letter, from a man who cleaned the floors and emptied the trash. One letter had stopped a firing squad. Arthur slowly picked up the stack of termination notices. He didn't rip them in a grand cinematic gesture. He simply walked them over to the industrial shredder in the corner of his office. He fed the pages in, one by one, watching the names and employee numbers turn into meaningless confetti. Project Phoenix was dead. He buzzed his assistant. "Margaret," he said, his voice thick with an emotion she hadn't heard in years. "Cancel my morning, and find out where Samuel the janitor starts his shift. I need to talk to him. I want to see the company through his eyes." That day the firings didn't happen. Instead, something else began, a restructuring not of personnel, but of perspective. All because one man, who felt invisible, chose to write a letter, and another man, who had lost his way, chose to read it. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most important voices are the ones we hear the least. The quietest person in the room can have the most to say if we only take a moment to listen. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more content that explores the human side of our world. See you in the next one.